scraps of what turned out, there it is, to be an enormous 18-foot-long oarfish. Jasmine Santana actually needed more than 15 helpers to drag the serpent-like creature to the shore. Staffers at the Catalina Island Marine Institute, where she works, calling it the discovery of a lifetime. Certainly was looking at those images. Oarfish, apparently they dived nearly 1,000 metres deep, and sightings of the creature very, very rare. The fish apparently dying of natural causes, then floated to the surface. It's going to be buried in the sand now until it decomposes, and then later on its skeleton going to be put on display. That is a big fish with a big eye as well. Now, Australian police have had to close down part of Melbourne Airport after a kangaroo bounced into the terminal and surprised passengers shopping in a pharmacy there. Looking rather like an ordinary shopper. There he is. It's thought the roo had been hit by a car, in fact, on its way to the building, but appeared otherwise to be well. Wildlife rescue volunteers called in. They tranquilised and captured, of course, the eastern grey male. He's now, though, said to be recovering well. Nice happy ending to that story. Let's bring you the latest news headlines for if you're just joining us here on France 24. Still no agreement, still no real way forward. And now, in fact, less than a day for US politicians to agree to raise the country's debt ceiling as one ratings agency warns of a downgrade. Iran proposes 3 steps to settle its long-running nuclear standoff with the rest of the world within a year. And the funeral of a Nazi war criminal called off in Italy after clashes between neo-Nazis and protesters. Now here on France 24, it's time for today's focus, and our reporters are going undercover to try to obtain false papers here in France. Now, there are no official estimates as to how many ordinary people buy such documents, but it's sure that the market for them is thriving. To try to put a stop to it, the fabrication and use of false papers is punishable by up to 5 years in prison. And new government guidelines say that those who've been in France for 5 years and can provide 8 payslips in the last 2 years can apply for legal work status. But, as our reporters Sonia Patricelli and Eve Irvine discover, it's still not difficult to get false papers if you need them.
The Barbès area of Paris is the place to go if you want fake documents. In just a few minutes, you can obtain an ID card or visa, all counterfeit. The police often break up the criminal networks behind them, but it's proving difficult to stamp them out completely. A France 24 journalist is posing as a Syrian refugee looking for papers to let him stay in France. The first person he approaches says he can help.
What do you need? A social security card or just a French ID?
Just a French ID card.
OK, it'll be ready tomorrow. That's 200 euros.
Our journalist paid a deposit, giving his name, address, photograph and a fake place of birth in Paris. Just 24 hours later, our supposed illegal immigrant had a false French identity card and, for a small extra cost, a forged piece of paper entitling him to healthcare. To test the quality of these counterfeits, we went to the French Interior Ministry department that specialises in detecting bogus papers. 15 people work under the supervision of Commander Willem, where part of their job is to train police officers to recognise fake IDs. Commander Willem demonstrates the security features on a typical biometric passport.
There is a layer of fluorescent dye, patterns, a watermark and some other anti-counterfeit devices. This is a really good passport. We find very few forgeries of these.
We ask him to look at the fake ID card purchased in Barbès, using software that runs tests under different kinds of light.
Under UV light, this document flashes. That means it's printed on the wrong kind of paper, so it's fake.
The paper used for official documents is the same kind as is used to make banknotes. Our ID card, however, is printed on ordinary paper. Shortly, it's time for the second test.
Look what happens when you increase the intensity of light. The light will go straight through and the watermark will show up. This document is completely opaque, so if you don't see the watermark on a French ID card, it's a fake.
Commander Willem says our counterfeit ID card is of average quality and very typical of the kind that the police come across often. However, he fears that officers who haven't been trained to recognise them probably wouldn't identify them as fakes.
French ID cards don't have the most recent technology, but they open a lot of doors, so they're a favourite with undocumented people and fraudsters. But there will come a time when we'll have to have something more sophisticated.
For most people without legal papers, it's not the quality of the fake ID that counts. Even poorly made fakes can be enough to get menial jobs, such as cleaning and in construction and restaurant industries. For many illegal immigrants, false papers are the only way to find work, as was the case for Mohammed. He arrived in France from Morocco 5 years ago on a tourist visa, but soon began working as a removal van and on building sites. With his wages, he can afford his rent of €500 a month and still send money to his mother back home.
This is the fake ID card that got me work.
6 months ago, Mohammed signed a job contract with a construction company. After 5 years in France, the job meant he could apply for a work permit.
I met all the criteria. I could provide 6 months' worth of payslips. I just need 2 more before I'm legal, and these payslips are real, not fakes.
His application was accepted by the authorities. In 2 months, Mohammed will be a legal worker.
When you haven't seen your mother for 6 years, 6 years is hard. I just hope I get this work permit so I can go back and see my family again.
It hasn't been an easy process for Mohammed, but he believes staying in France for him was the right decision, even though he had to break the law for 5 years to do so.
Special report there in today's Focus. It's time now for sport here on France 24. We're going to kick off with the latest World Cup qualifiers. Good news for France.